Welcome back to War Thunder and welcome to the end of the line vehicle currently in War Thunder for the German nation in their respective special tank line. Every nation has a line where they have rather unique vehicles aside from light tanks, which the Germans have a lack of, heavy tanks, medium tanks, AAA vehicles and tank destroyers. Every nation has a unique line. And for the Germans we have before that the rather weakly armored tanks or tank destroyers, or rather with big, highly effective guns that usually you have a lower battle rating on the same gun. For example, the Nashorn features the Long 88, which makes its first appearance on a regular tank at 6.3 for the rest of the German tanks. Tiger 2P, Jagdpanzer, Ferdinand, you name it. And then you have, after the Sture Emil, a switch over to rank 5, where there is the Raketenjagdpanzer 2, which features also ATGMs, but they are the Lenkflugkörper SS-11. You have 14 of them, you have 2 at the same time, but they are first generation, so you have to hand guide them with the arrow keys, I guess. And then at 8.3, you have the Raketenjagdpanzer 2 HOT, or HOT, whatever. You have 20 rockets, a single launcher, and, well, let's get over the stats very briefly, shall we? So, here we can see that the Raketenjagdpanzer 2 HOT, which is the third from above, has the highest penetration of 800mm. And that immediately raises the question, will it be enough for the new E.R.A. with the new M60 variant, with the Kampfpanzer 70 main battle tank 70, and also the T-64A? Will it be enough? That's a question that we will see to be answered within the new patch when it drops. And, well, overall you can see the Raketenjagdpanzer is not that bad, and especially the reload rate of 8 seconds is okay-ish. It's much better than, for example, the Sheridan, the M55-1, and it also is a bit faster than the IT-1. However, the IT-1 has the speciality of having an autoloader, which results in an interruptible reload. Even if you extinguish the fire, even if you're down to 2 crew members, you still have those 10.6 seconds. But then let's have a look at what this vehicle can do. And one of the drawbacks you just saw here, you have a very narrow, what should I call it, a very narrow firing arc. The rockets itself then also can go a little bit to the left and to the right. I just marked here the ZSU-57-2. I would have loved to shoot this guy a second time. I also have to say I was kind of lucky in this battle, and this is one of the first times that I ever played this ATGM, and I'm very rusty with ATGMs. I have no idea where this shot went, and so I retreat. Also, let's talk about the Raketenjagdpanzer 2, the HOT, as I will name it from now on, for the simple reason of having easier commentary on it. It's highly mobile. It is very fast, also in reverse, very maneuverable, and it's low profile. You can go into cover, not as I do it right here, and that means you are nearly, well, how to say it, you're untouchable at long range. You're untouchable at when you are behind a rock, when you are behind the ridge line. You still can fire at your opponent, also thanks to the 10 degrees of gun depression, and I have no idea where this shell went. You can see I'm not the best tanker here, but I also have to say I have no idea what this ZSU-57-2 did. Did he fire HE belts, anti-aircraft belts? And finally I got him with the hull brake mechanic. Then there's a second tank, and that's a ZSU-23-4, the Shilka. And I'm not quite sure what this guy was doing. He was practically gifting me that kill, so thank you very much. I was very lucky that there was no real tank that was really going for me in a brawling situation, because that's a drawback. And that is what looks like a T-62. Immediately I go hull down, and then I have to correct my positioning again so that the rocket actually goes off and we can hit this guy really easily. I hit the driver, the track and the fuel tanks, he's on fire, and I try to zero in his position through the trees. And that's a bug, double launch, and a bit from the side, and the rocket just didn't, quite hit the tank because he was hidden. I couldn't properly aim. So he has all the time in the world to repair and to then go into cover. I think those tanks are aerial denial tanks. Their best job is to be in cover and to also just simply snipe the enemy at long range. That is what they are best at. The next thing is, when you are looking at the good sides of an ATGM, you also have to look about the bad sides. And this is where the muzzle velocity comes in. There are subsonic rockets. The highest muzzle velocity that we have, or maximum speed on the trajectory as it is called within War Thunder, comes from the Sheridan, the M551 Sheridan, with 323 meters per second. The rest is somewhere between 240 meters for the Raketenjagdpanzer Hot, or even just 150 meters per second for the Raketenjagdpanzer 2 and the Stridswagen 81, which both feature the SS-11. While you are very likely to hit your target at long range, you have very big difficulties to make it quickly. For example, with the SS-11, it takes you 10 seconds to cover 1.5 kilometers, which is your preferable combat distance, I'd say. That is a long time. In 10 seconds I can accelerate and then quickly stop before the rocket impacts. I can try to hide, go back into cover, reverse, lay a smoke screen and move then within the screen. You see, ATGMs are not an I win button. They feel like it when you play against them, but they are not that by default. I have to say, you have to practice it, but then if you are in the right situation, you can be really devastating, and you are a very good support for your team. I overestimated here the speed for my rocket, so yeah, and that was probably a shot with, for example, I'd say with a Chieftain I could have hit this guy. And so always to try to engage the enemy, to go for locations that, people know you're there, to avoid aircraft. I was also very lucky that this shot just missed, but I also was very lucky that there was no real CAS. And watch this shot. I aim for the ammo rack of this T-54. It looks like a 51 variant. I still couldn't release the rocket. And now he tries to back off. And I hit the fuel tank, and I actually hit the ammo rack, but not quite good enough. So it was burning. I still see him in the woods. I have to say that the fuse sensitivity on those rockets seems to be a bit more forgiving than on normal average heat or hash shells. But it is also stated as being 0.1 millimeters, so it shouldn't be that, forgiving. Another double launch. This time I have him, and it took me 3 rockets to finally blow up his ammo rack. Again, you can see I'm not the best expert, but I think this was the second battle overall that I played this tank in with. I also have to say that those tanks are very bad in city fights. They have no stabilizer for the launch. They have no armor except the IT-1. And they also have very limited firing arcs. Keep that in mind. You always have to be in the preferable situation to make full use of the advantages of this tank. And you always also have to put yourself into advantageous position yourself. I see there this Russian plane, and I know what's coming. Don't we? Yeah. People love their Yak-90s. I try to hide within the trees, and he sets, well, not yet, but this Yak-90 seems to have blown up that Raketenjagdpanzer 2 HOT. I have no idea why there was no immediate fire after the hit, but yeah, I tried to hide in the woods. I know that he is looking for me, but he is also not wasting any ammunition. The advantage that I have right now is that nobody of the enemy team is challenging me, is going for me, putting pressure on me, try to catch me off guard while I try to escape from the plane. Nobody is going for my B point. I still can cover it now, and I asked my team if somebody can deal with that Yak-9T. So communication in the chat also is something important, even though it seems like I'm on the Russian server. So there is that. At the moment, the teams are evenly matched, I'd say, point-wise, but the enemy team has a points advantage. I see that 2 tanks are now challenging or trying to go into A, and if somebody lies in an ambush, I can ambush the one lying in the ambush, I'd say, because he has to face towards the city center. I see nothing, which is a shame, and again, I'm not quite sure what to do here, but holding this position is very important. And you can see this little dip here to my left. That is enough to hide this tank. Again, talking about the low profile. Again, I'm not very used to the overall hull down playstyle with this tank to such an extreme tendency. If somebody would spawn right now, he would have an easy shot at my side. Now there are a few allied planes in the air, there is AAA going around, so the Yak-9T has other things to do, I guess. I saw a shot coming around, I see this T-44 here, or it looks like a T-44. I see also the Shilka firing, or a Shilka firing, and I retreat. And then I try to get a new angle of attack on them through the bushes. Again, this vehicle is very small, very sneaky, very stealthy, and I'm having I've great confidence that I can catch at least one of those guys, one of those 2 guys off guard, and I actually take out the crew of the Shilka. So good result right there. That was my 6th kill, and it didn't look, or it didn't feel like much effort. But then again, that Yak-9T could have easily destroyed me if he would have gone for me first, not for the other Raketenjagdpanzer 2. If the T-44 would not have missed its shell, I would be dead. If that T-62 earlier on would have aimed a bit more to the right from his perspective, he would have catched both my crew, 2 of my 4 crew members, severely crippling me, or even blowing up a rocket, ammo rack, something like this. So this was a lucky battle. However, I just kind of shown that, especially at long ranges, you are a force to be reckoned with. But then again, I have the questions for you more experienced ATGM drivers out there. What did I do something particularly wrong? Should I have been more aggressive? Should I have just, go into the city and try to brawl or not? Are the stats here wrong? Or what would you suggest? Because I think I played more or less to the strength of the vehicle. One thing that I have to mention that annoys me a little bit about ATGMs is the kind of lack of realism when it comes to damaging the rockets. Now what do I mean by that? Well, simply if you get hit on the rocket with a solid shot, with a big high explosive shell, with another ATGM, heat, hash, whatsoever, it's not that the rocket blows up, okay? And that's a bit annoying, because it's practically an external ammo rack. And when we look at the armor of the Raketenjagdpanzer 2, or the HOT in this variant, the deck armor is just 10 millimeters. That is nothing. Directly below the rocket it's 20, as well as in front of the vehicle. Some engine deck parts are just 5 millimeters above the 10 millimeters. The vehicle shouldn't survive that. Now, one thing that I have to add here, it's totally possible to destroy an ATGM when hitting the rocket with a high explosive shell, but then it's the high explosive shell splashing down itself, not the rocket exploding. This is what I guess they showed off wrong in Thunder Show. It was a episode that's quite some time ago where they showed, I guess, some ATGM being hit by a high caliber, high explosive shell or HESH shell, I don't quite remember, and it went off. It was not the rocket, but the high explosive shell from the enemy tank that then splashed through the deck armor. This is why I always show that off in my tank reviews, because I think it's a legitimate way of trying to destroy a tank. To try to use your KV-1, your of any nation from 120 millimeters onwards. The high explosive shells are very devastating indeed if they hit the right place. Shot trapping, for example, with a Jagdtiger with the high explosive shell, IS-3, IS-4 is a more safer way than try to go through the armor with the armor piercing shell. That's just one mentioning. So I survived this match, and it didn't feel much like of an effort. I was camping hard here, but then again, you know, brawling in this tank. And then again, I got the Survivor Award, 7,500 silver lines. I got 40,000 silver lines and 3,700 research points, 1,942 score points. And here we can see one important thing, that is pure profit. So if you have problems in your Leopard to get a decent profit because those heat shells that you took so long to research are so expensive, try the ATGMs. That's it for me today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Please give this video a like if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more. And we'll see each other on the battlefields and in the skies of War Thunder.